Hello and welcome. Anicca, change, uncertainty, everything's continually changing, and the surrounding environment is certainly something to keep us aware of that, as well as our responses to that change, how we react, whether it's with equanimity, or whether it's with aversion and disliking, or clinging to the good times we have. These are measures of how well we've been practicing, how diligently we've been striving on this Noble Eightfold Path, which is simply keeping precepts, practicing meditation, and developing wisdom. I say simply. Sometimes it can feel like an uphill struggle. You're swimming against the current, against the stream of what might be considered in our surroundings as normality. But if we keep a routine and we keep that underpinned, anchored with the foundation of those 5 precepts, no killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, or taking of intoxicants, it's far easier to maintain a routine and regular practice of meditation. We have more discipline. If we're disciplined in those 5 precepts, we have the discipline to keep adhitthana, determination, a determination to practice meditation for an hour every morning, an hour every evening, every day, whatever happens. So I've just seen pass here, along with the full moon of, April, Uposatha, the Sinhalese and Tamil New Year. Many festivities, activities going on, different things going on around me, but I've tried to maintain the same routine, my own practice, but also that of going on Pindapata each morning, even though it isn't expected of me, and there may be no one there when I go on Pindapata because they're doing other festivities that take place at this time of the year. But it is my routine. And whatever changes around me, whatever the circumstances, including the very different weather at the moment that we're experiencing, all of the wet and the humidity and the storms, if we keep a routine, it helps us keep that adhitthana, that determination. It helps us with taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, and seeing the security in that, what it is, a refuge. Protection, seclusion from hindrances, seclusion from external influences of that coming from the environment, from the company we keep, the surrounding society, political situation, geographical location, and how we're feeling in our bodies, how we're experiencing aging, we're experiencing sickness sometimes, the death of others and our own pending demise should always be brought to mind, not to depress us, but to help us see how we can be grateful for the opportunity we have whilst we're still able to practice, unencumbered physically, to really get on with it and keep that determined effort up to maintain that regular practice, as I was referring to. So someone asked me how to really diligently follow truly this path. That is it. You keep the precepts and you meditate. The rest will follow. Wisdom, panya, developing wholesome mind states, reducing unwholesome mind states will happen naturally with the basis, the foundation of that practice. There's no need to take part in any particular ceremonial activities, performance of rites and rituals, but if they help, They help support your faith or your confidence in the practice, confidence in the Dharma, confidence in our teacher, the Buddha. You, of course, have more refuge, more security in that taking of refuge, in the triple gem, the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. So the first question today is about dealing with physical pain when meditating, whether it's temporary, such as hunger pains, or something longer, such as migraine, or even longer, such as sprained ankle. So we've got the different levels and lengths of pain and how it manifests, hangs around and eventually goes away. Knowing that in itself is one way to deal with it. And Nietzsche, understanding the temporary and permanent nature of all things, whether they're things we like or whether they're things we don't like, is the basis for our understanding, our wisdom. This is the development of Panya, wisdom. Knowing that all things are impermanent helps alleviate the suffering we may derive from them, because we know it's a temporary situation. We can still enjoy things, but knowing it's temporary lessens the suffering when that is over. We'll still experience pain and have suffering, but knowing it's temporary lessens our reaction, our behavioural instincts towards that suffering, that pain. It's developing equanimity, upekkha, that wonderful quality, which is the measure of how well we're doing in our practice. So I've referred this commenter to 2 videos or 3 videos. There are countless, well, not countless, there are a few, if not many. There are quite a few videos that bring reference to this same common question, frequently asked question about dealing with pain in meditation. 2 specifically that are quite long, in-depth videos just on that very subject. So maybe I've sent you the link, watch those. But remember also, and this is most important and why I bring it up again, another commenter asked how to get away from their clinging to comfort. And I stress there's nothing wrong with enjoying comfort or being comfortable. And it is expected that we're not going to like pain and we're not going to like suffering from the result as a result of pain. And clinging, yes. Attachment to, yes, is the opposite of being able to let go to sensual pleasures or to aversions, 2 of these 5 hindrances to our practice and to actually our progress in everything we do throughout our lives. But understanding this, knowing this, is the key aspect. The teachings of the Buddha are the middle path, the middle way. He tried a life of austerity, tapas practices, trying to burn away the defilements through major suffering and pain, including the starvation of his own physical body until he was emaciated, living on 1 grain of rice for a very long time, practicing these for 6 years, never sleeping, never laying down, and living a very austere life to no avail. It didn't work out. Eventually, he, having come from the life of luxury and then experienced this opposite, this life of austerity, he found that the only truth can be found is in the middle way, the middle path. Not overly austere practices and not overly indulgence in luxury. And we must always remind ourselves of this. Now, of course, there is a varying degree of what we find comfortable and what we don't. But one must appreciate being comfortable is okay. When we first sit to meditate, we must make sure that we find a posture that is comfortable enough to maintain for the entire duration of that meditation. As soon as we move, then we're beginning the meditation again. We have lost focus on our meditation object, and we will have to bring our focus back to that meditation object and carry on. So we may have been meditating for 15 minutes and then we move because we don't like that posture. We're starting again to meditate for the next few minutes, however long we can, until we move. So we are looking to stay without using our physical body and without using our thinking brains, our minds, our brains to think things through. It's not, meditation isn't analytical process. It is allowing our minds, our brains, to have time to settle and become calm and eventually free from thought and focus on a meditation object. Pain can be considered an intoxicant as much as any other intoxicants, as much as it makes this very difficult. A migraine, particularly because you've got visual disturbance, you've got severe pain, you may have nausea, you may have physical weird feelings of numbness. Personally, I've suffered from migraines as a young child until into my adulthood, less so, and at times in my life very severely. I was incapacitated for some with another illness, nothing serious, minor, like as a childhood illness, measles or something like that. But I was incapacitated and away from school for 6 weeks, largely due to migraines, which were the pure result of stress built up and suffering around the illness. So additional mental suffering that came about as a result and caused additional physical illness. I'm very experienced, unfortunately, in this, but I can say also fortunately, because I can understand how debilitating such a thing is, like migraine. It does have its physical origins also. So what I must say is, with anything to do with pain, always get professional medical advice and help and look after your body. Without us looking after our bodies, we cannot use them to practice. We must be grateful for this life we have, grateful for the opportunity that we have to practice. And although we understand our bodies get ill, they're going to get sick, we're going to get old, and we're going to die, we still need to look after them as we would look after a vehicle that we use, a car, to get us from A to B. We know it won't last forever, but we maintain it as best we can. And bearing in mind it's the middle path, we're not looking to cause ourselves additional suffering to prove how brave we are, how cool we are, how hard we are, how macho we are. Or we sit on this hard floor and we suffer for hours and hours, therefore we're really good practitioners. This is not the practice, no. This is going to be detrimental towards your focus of attention on the meditation object and prevent you from developing seclusion from the 5 hindrances and being able to attain to even samadhi, let alone get into jhana. So if there's resources available to you, you can make the most of them. So don't shy away from comfort, but of course we don't overindulge in it. We don't laze around on great big cushions, bean bags, and lay back and call it meditation. To some extent we need to be staying erect in our posture and awake for the purpose of keeping focus on a meditation object and therefore allowing the brain to be free of thought. And apart from, as described in detail, the Buddha's teachings on dealing with pain itself, which is a sort of a 3-step thing. You either grin and bear it, or you move, or I've forgotten it now. I'll refer you to those videos. But really the point being is we need to look after ourselves and ensure that our bodies are relatively free from pain before we sit to practice, because otherwise it's going to be a rather pointless exercise. Now I will say my cure to migraines, and it is a cure to migraines, is meditation. From when I started meditating some 15, I really lose track of time, but 15 years ago, let's say, probably 15 years ago. What are we even now? The year 2025, 2015, 10. Yes, about 15 years ago. When I started meditation 15 years ago, meditating 15 years ago, earnestly. So I had a determined effort in meditation and a regular meditation practice for at least the last 13, 14 years. I have never experienced a migraine since. Now, I cannot tell you the mechanics, the biology behind that, but it's just my experience. From someone who suffered from migraines most of their lives, I, since practicing meditation, have never experienced migraines since. I was experiencing migraines when I began meditation and used meditation firstly as a way of coping with the migraine. I was having to work, I was in a different line of work. It required thinking, it required physical activity, and it required some degree of communication skills, so everything was quite involved. And these migraines would come out of nowhere, probably as a result of stress, and I had to just take an opportunity to step away from the situation, sit down. I didn't call it meditation then, but just literally sit down and breathe. And really that was my introduction, I suppose, to meditation before I realized that that was what meditation was. To step away from the situation, not ignore it, be aware of it, but just take a few moments to breathe. And this, I found very quickly, allowed me to pull out of the symptoms of a migraine. If you're familiar with them, begin with some warning signs. And if you can catch, there is medication for this purpose, but if you can catch the migraine at the warning stages, you can often prevent the subsequent pain resulting from the migraine, and even the after effects, which can last for some days after a migraine, depending on the severity. As I say, mine were very severe. I did find through just simply stopping and watching the breath and forgetting about all of the worries for a moment or two, I could just alleviate and stop it occurring and carrying on. There were some reminiscent aspects of it, but I could work. Beforehand, I would be physically disabled. Migraines are very debilitating. I used to be paralyzed, numb down one side. The right side, the left side, it would alternate between attacks. A strange thing. Very, very severe. But since meditation, nothing. Not one migraine ever. There was not only psychological, there was, as was found later when I had some treatment on my eyes in a specialist eye hospital in India, for some other reason, they discovered I did have damage in my eyes, which had to be repaired, and very possibly was either as a result or the cause of those severe migraines I'd had in the past. But the practice of meditation was what allowed the stress, the coming from the retina, that very sensitive nerve area at the back of the eyes, the damage there, which was congenital. I was born with it, which is why I had these attacks from childhood. The very process of sitting and physically lowering the blood pressure, and therefore lowering the pressure in the eyes. I've forgotten what it's called. I have it tested regularly for my eyes, but just the process of meditation alleviates this and stops it progressing to the full-blown attack. So I discovered that meditation helped in that respect, but you still do need to be able to get to that stage to take all necessary precautions for your own sake with regards to pain. And we must always remember that this is the middle path, the middle way. There's nothing big, and there's nothing clever about sitting on a cold, concrete, damp floor to meditate when you have the opportunity to sit on a nice mat or even use a cushion or sit on a stool if you need to. You don't want to cause your body damage. Now, I have a different perspective and measure of comfort, perhaps, than maybe I would have had 20 years ago in my previous life within this life, where I wouldn't have dreamed of living somewhere like this or sitting like this for any length of time, or even been able to. But I had to really use a certain degree those practices that were allowable, what we call the 13 Dhutanga practices, only some of them, in order to, as tapas practices, which is burning away the hindrances, the defilements, the kilesas of greed, hatred and delusion, because they were so ingrained in my being, because I'd so been living a life so different to this. I had to make a radical change to get away and be able to let go of some of the very potently strong desires I had in greed, in hatred, and the ignorance that had built up as a result of not understanding those are the source of my suffering. So I wanted to experience the harsh side of practice, because I'd read biographies of these really cool forest monks who'd done this and really been able to break away from suffering in this lifetime and attain to arahantship. So following in their footsteps as closely as I could in this modern world, I chose that path, but still within the parameters of what the Buddha allowed as far as austerity and ascetic practices are concerned, within those 13 Dhutanga practices. And I got used to it. But remember, this room I'm in now, which some of you think's dirty and damp and could be cleaned up. Yes, the surrounding folks here would love to make it more comfortable for me, decorate it nicely and put furniture in here. But I choose to have it like this because I accept it as what I need, and it's everything I need to live what I consider to be a comfortable life to support my practice of meditation. It is all I need these days. But it is also, we must remember, in fact, more than, a lot more than most people, a lot of people in the world, I would say probably the majority, have by way of comfort. Many people don't have any form of adequate shelter, certainly not having electricity. I know I don't have much, a light and a socket, that's it, but it's enough for me, and a luxury which I'm grateful for that's provided for me. But many people don't have that. So their view of luxury, comfort and clinging to comfort would be so much less than what yours is. So you need to just look, in the case of that question with regards to clinging to comfort, look at what it is you're clinging to. If it's a particular coloured cushion or a particular type of cushion, then perhaps that is clinging to something unnecessarily. But if you require a cushion to support your back because you have a spinal injury or discomfort, then you just need something there to support your back because of the pain and discomfort. So this isn't clinging to comfort. So we have different degrees of understanding. It is, though, the practice against going against the flow, pushing, or really swimming against the current, that is, going against the stream, because we are pushing ourselves a little towards discomfort, even with the very aspect of sitting in meditation. But this is enough to keep still, motionless, for a good long period of time, with our minds, our thinking brains focused wholly on one thing and not deviating from that one thing for any length of time, is very difficult in itself, and for many very uncomfortable, and why people don't do it. People think, well, it's okay, I go to the temple, I give offerings, I do this chanting, I do this practice and that practice, I'm keeping the precepts. Yes, this is very good. If you want to really experience, however, what the Buddha is showing us we can experience, and that is jhana, coming from samadhi, then we need to practice meditation also. Only through this will we get a glimpse of what Nibbana is about, Nibbana. People say to me, well, what is Nibbana? Isn't that believing in something? No, because it's more what it isn't. It's nothing that we are used to, can compare to, can describe. It is not of this conditioned world. But it can be experienced. Only, however, if we experience jhana, where we're secluded from our physical feelings and our thinking brains. Secluded from thought, secluded from feeling. Then we can experience something called sunyata, described as emptiness, but really it's infinite spaciousness. where there are no parameters of the body and the thinking brain, no restrictions, no walls, no chains. It's freedom from the ties to the physical body, freedom from the ties to the intellectual process of thought that keeps us so bound in this rigid way of ours. Oh, things must be this way. Someone said it should be done this way. This is this, this is that. It's this way. It's 1 + 1 = 2. This is thought. Nibbana is away from all of that, but can be experienced in jhana, seen, just a glimpse of, enough for you to know. People say, oh, what about rebirth? This is something you have to believe in. Well, if you're experiencing jhana, practicing, those that have experienced this will have memories, will have details, absolute details they can recall, and skills they're using in this life, they developed in a previous life. They have memories of, they can recall. Those practicing diligently can experience this. There's nothing to believe there. When you're using the skills in this life you developed in a previous life, you're becoming aware of the conditions and the causes that created rebirth into this life. It's evident to you. It's present to you in the here and now, in the present moment, as you sit, albeit timeless, secluded from samsara, in meditation, in jhana. But without actually sitting each day for at least an hour in the morning and an hour in the evening, you won't experience this. You won't experience this rushing around, going to the temple, offering the rice, offering the flowers, the incense. This is good also. It's supportive of generosity, developing that quality. We have 10 parami. It isn't an official Buddhist list in the sense that it's picked qualities from different suttas, but compiled in various numbered lists in different schools and traditions. In Theravada we say 10, including generosity, dana, patience, khanti, truthfulness, satya, all of these things, equanimity, upekkha. But samadhi, meditation, is one of those qualities. Separate as one of those qualities. But it's the only one that leads to deeply absorbed states or stages of absorption where we can experience openly through absolute insight, real insight, awareness, by seeing clearly, vipassana, that Pali word, which means seeing clearly, the true nature of all things, like when I began, anicca, how things are impermanent. And knowing this leads to wisdom, of course, less suffering. That's the tangible evidence that comes as a result of this practice, from developing naturally the wisdom as a result of just keeping the precepts and practicing meditation. But I have to add, it doesn't matter how much, what you make by way of donations to the Sangha, or how much rice you give, how many candles you light. Without keeping sila and practicing meditation, wisdom, sila, precepts, meditation, samadhi, panya, wisdom. Panya, wisdom, the reduction of unwholesome mind states and the increase of wholesome mind states, will not occur naturally. Knowledge, intellect can be gained, can be learned from a book. That's not transferable. That's not a quality that will move into the next life. When your physical brain, thinking brain, dies, or even during its life, loses its elasticity, its youth, experiences dementia, Alzheimer's, whatever other conditions, or just simply old age, you start to be less able to remember things. and you forget all that you've learned. So that isn't true wisdom, that's intellectual knowledge. So we should reflect on our practice, what we've done, and give ourselves a good pat on the back and a tick for all of the generosity, the dana we've given, we've offered, and how we've helped through no other reason other than to support others and to enjoy the process of giving, because we enjoy giving, don't we? And that we've kept sila. So we've been able to give the wonderful and most precious gift there is to give, and the best way we can practice generosity, and that is in keeping the 5 precepts. Therefore, absolutely unable to do any harm to ourselves or to any other beings. That is just 5 precepts, that's all, not 10 commandments, not our 227 monastic rules, or 311 if you're a nun. Just the 5 precepts are enough to ensure you cannot harm yourself. You cannot harm any other beings. And that way, you're giving the gift of fearlessness to other beings. Many of you noted about the snake passing by me behind very close in one video, which I did manage to find and put up as a separate short video for those who didn't notice. I certainly didn't notice, because there's many poisonous snakes and big snakes, small snakes around here and things. They leave you undisturbed as long as you leave them undisturbed. This goes to for the same as all creatures, with the exception of cats, of course, who they just want metta and karuna, mudita, loving kindness, compassion and joy, don't you? Because she's some sort of dwarf kitten, because the others have all grown up now, but this one seems to stay very small. I don't know why that is, but she's become attached to sitting here when I'm sitting here, or wherever I'm sitting. But so is Rosie, she's still around, the older one. Again, all changing, they keep changing. But you see, giving this gift of loving kindness but giving this gift of keeping sila, keeping the precepts, we must see it as that. Not only is it the foundation for our practice of meditation, it truly is a gift to the rest of the world. We feel comfortable, don't we, when we go to visit monasteries, when we stay in other religious places, environments, whereby we know the people's primary purpose there is to be good and kind to each other. Knowing that gives us a great sense of security and refuge in itself, doesn't it? Which is why we find anything, churches, mosques, temples, any religious environment, usually somewhere that is a kind of haven, safe haven, peaceful place, because we don't have to fear. And we can create that sense around us, that aura, not a spiritual, mystical, magical aura, but a real aura of safety and fearlessness around us to all beings by just simply keeping the precepts. So that's what we reflect upon. We reflect on how we've been doing that. And we reflect upon how diligently have we been using our time. Was there a time we were doing something when we could have actually been meditating? I even myself find that sometimes I try to restrict. I use this phone for making this video, this talk, and before I make this talk I quickly go through the comments and any emails I've received. Only once each day, that's my contact. But you know, occasionally if I'm expecting a message or something, I might pick it up in the day and look at it. And I know how easy it is when you open the email application, app. If there's 3 others, you're going to have a glance, aren't you? So it's quite difficult. So I try to maintain that discipline, that adhitthana, that determination, that I'll only pick it up unless I need to check it for something, For instance, if you're waiting for a flight or something like that, or you're expecting a visitor and you know they may contact you to tell you that they're going to be coming on a different day, or they're going to be coming a day sooner, so you might check your email a little bit around that time. But other than that, just to leave it for the designated time. Now, I appreciate in normal life, society and work life and family life, you need to be checking more regularly. But you can always, everybody can, turn off notifications and just look for incoming important messages at a certain time. You can't deal with them after all at once. Most of the notifications you receive, you ignore. You may get a glance of the subject matter out of the corner of your eye, and it'll be bothering you in your mind until you deal with it. It's better to just not have a glance of it out of the corner of your eye and not be bothered by it until you can actually deal with it properly. Just put on your to-do list, look at all emails, look at all messages, look at all whatever it is that comes, and do it in those designated times. It just starts to separate things and free things up in the day. And this way, you will find time for meditation, even if it's just 15-20 minutes. Whilst you're at a coffee break, a lunch break, if you have 10 minutes, whilst the kettle's boiling, sit and watch the breath, practice some meditation, rather than scrolling through stuff you don't need to scroll through. And you'll be freer. You'll be free with the time to just be not thinking, not doing, not worrying, still caring, still developing good qualities, but not creating additional suffering that really isn't necessary. And I noticed very quickly, if I deviate from that pattern and look more than... There was something I was waiting for, I had to check it a couple of times. And I was looking at the emails more than I do ordinarily, a little bit more regularly, a few times in the morning and maybe a few times in the afternoon, and it does interfere with your day, your practice. So if we can take a time away from that in our schedules to have a day off of all this interaction with notifications and so on and so forth, then it gives us room, even if we're not formally meditating, but to allow our minds to be a little bit more at peace. And so often people are looking towards getting away from it all and finding peace and tranquility. It's there, it's within us, it's us. We create the suffering through not having developed that equanimity I was referring to earlier in the first place towards what's going on. Of course, if you constantly got something beeping and vibrating in your pocket or in front of you, telling you should be alert to this, alert to that, it's never going to do. Turn all of that off. It's not necessary. If you're on call for a certain reason, there's something you're expecting, yes indeed, you need to be alerted. Your attention needs to be got. But other than that, most of it can be dispensed with. So this is reflection. This is reflection on, firstly, that we've kept the precepts. It's reflection on that we've put into practice the practice of meditation. We found the time. We don't have to achieve great things in meditation. We don't have to experience these varying degrees of jhana or even the different levels of samadhi. We just need to sit and do it or not do anything for a certain amount of time. It will all naturally follow. But if you don't sit and do it, it will not naturally follow. But you'll soon experience. If you can be cured of something as debilitating as migraines, as I was, just through, this isn't the reason I continued meditation. I found much more benefit in meditation than that. That's just another side effect of meditation, but a positive one, yes? If you can be cured of something like that, just through sitting and meditating, with no particular meditation skills, then imagine how free your mind can be when you really diligently practice. And this is what we reflect upon. And when to reflect? Well, reflect at the end of the day, before you sit to meditate, before you go to sleep. Meditate before you go to sleep, but before you sit to meditate, just for a few seconds. Right, did I keep the precepts today? Have I meditated when given the opportunity? Or have I just been a bit relaxed with the precepts and had a bit of beer to drink, or took some paper clips from work, told a little white lie about this and white lie about that, killed a cockroach because I really didn't like the look at it, and all of these sort of simple things that we might take in our stride. They're all breaking the 5 precepts. However insignificant they might be to you, they're still serious. Because only breaking any of the precepts usually involves breaking the lying precept, the 4th precept also. So you're at least breaking 2. And this is the slippery slope. And if you can break something once, you'll break it again, and each time it can get worse, more serious, increasing in degrees. So we should review that, reflect on that. And it takes seconds. It's not a thought process. It's not a writing an essay. You just sit there and, well, did I break the precepts? Yes or no? It's not, well, was it lying or wasn't it lying? Was it killing or wasn't it killing? It's black and white. The 5 precepts are just that. Did I drink alcohol or take an intoxicant, or didn't I? It's not whether it was only a little bit and it was for this reason. That's a discussion. You'll be reflecting all night. It's just, did I or didn't I? Yes or no? Like a court of law. Black and white, guilty or not guilty. 5 precepts, that's all, just 5. Keep them rigidly, without flexibility or deviation. Reflect on that. If you didn't, it's okay. It's not okay, but you don't need to punish yourself. The fact you've recognized you didn't, you can make a determination that from now on you'll endeavor to keep the precepts. And then, did I meditate? Yes or no? Again, did I or didn't I? Black and white, yes or no? Mindfulness and the rest of the Noble Eightfold Path will fall into a place as a result of those 2 main practices, Sila and Samadhi. Samadhi will help you develop mindfulness throughout all of your activities of body, speech and mind, socially, business, family, whatever you're doing. So I wouldn't really get on to talking about all of your comments today and questions, more of a little Dharma talk, an unofficial sort of Dharma talk. And really just coming from my own experience of various changes that are ongoing. Now, having been here for over a year, 18 months now, in just this one place, or maybe it's longer, about that. You see the cyclical nature of the year, the annual changes, but also, generally speaking, everything in the world is changing and has been changing since the sort of the 2000 and whatever it was, 1920, when there was the worldwide pandemic and all of that, when everything was sort of brought into a kind of the whole world, universe, the whole world was together in that one, weren't they? That was a common problem worldwide. And then, in a way, it was brought together in that sense, with some sense of something in common, whereas each country, each society has its own individual issues and problems throughout history. That was a worldwide issue. And in that sense, since then, the recovery has been that recovery for everyone and everything ever since. So we're in a progressive, hopefully, world now, and some say otherwise. Some experiencing positive change, others are experiencing negative change. But overall, in the scheme of things, in the existence of humanity, this has always been the way. Ups and downs. Always change, always anicca, uncertainty. Nothing is sure, other than aging, sickness and death. And suffering as a result of ignorance. Not lack of intellectual knowledge, ignorance, but not understanding the nature of change, anicca. Not understanding that suffering is normal. We experience through our physical bodies and our thinking brains unsatisfactoriness. but thinking through ignorance that that is us, that is ourselves. It is within our control, which it is not. Anatta, not self. It will continue, it will happen regardless of what we do. However many times we go to the gym, the body will still age, get sick and die. However many protein shakes you drink, those muscles will waste away, ashes to ashes, dust to dust in the grave. But on a cheery note, what a wonderful opportunity when we see that and we realize that we have here and now to practice and enjoy everything we have. Now I have very little here, but what I have I really enjoy, appreciate and experience with gratitude as the seasoning. So this simple dwelling place, the simple food I eat, is seasoned and spiced up by the gratitude I have for having that provided to me. And therefore is infinitely preferable to anything one might have by way of luxury that you take for granted. On that note, until next time, be happy and stay well. Sukhi Hotu.